Hello, my name is Andy Straub, and this is a case study look at higher education issues in Finland. This case study is my signature assignment for EDU 6450, Globalization of Education, as part of my Masters of Education program at Northeastern University. As part of the case study, I've been asked to look at the level of education in a country other than the United States, and I've chosen to examine higher education in Finland. According to Education in Finland, published by the Ministry of Education and Culture and the Finnish National Agency for Education, there are some key characteristics that define higher education in Finland. The first is equity in education. In Finland, it is believed that education is a right for all citizens, which is why there's no cost for higher education. As such, higher education in Finland is mostly publicly funded, with the exception of some private universities. Despite a reliance on state funding, Finnish universities still hold a large amount of autonomy when it comes to management of their higher education programs, and do not have a lot of governmental oversight. Higher education programs and degrees in Finland are taught in the country's two official languages, Finnish and Swedish. However, there are a lot of programs that are being taught in English as well, in an effort to draw more appeal for international students. Despite having an extremely positive reputation, there are some pressing contemporary issues in Finnish higher education. The first issue is one that Hanna Sarkkinen, member of the parliament and vice chair of the Left Alliance Party, has brought up as a concern. She cites data showing that 10% of 15-year-olds graduating from basic education are lacking functional literacy, meaning they can read, but they don't necessarily understand what they're reading. And boys' literacy has declined more significantly than girls. While this isn't a direct issue within higher education, it does affect the number of students who may potentially attend and succeed. One way to increase overall enrollment in higher education is to appeal to international students, which is why many higher education programs in Finland are taught in English. However, Taina Saarinen claims that English is being presented as a basic and necessary entrance requirement to many programs, and some programs are not even mentioning what the minimum TOEFL standards would be in order to enroll. This means that some international students may find it difficult to determine whether or not they're even qualified to be a part of the program at all. When it comes to international students in Finnish universities, there's also an argument made by Crawford and Bethel that what's going on isn't quite internationalization. They explain that host students and international students are not interacting with each other very frequently, and as a result, both sides lose out on the opportunity to learn from one another. There may be other issues driving a wedge between host students and international students as well. The Finnish government recently announced that starting in August 2017, universities would be able to start charging tuition fees for international students, which could result in a lack of interest in Finnish universities as options for these students. Additional monetary issues are also affecting higher education in Finland, as a recent economic downturn has resulted in some budget cuts in universities across the country. Because of this, Finland is starting to lose many of its international students as well as local talent who look to find more job security elsewhere through the dreaded brain drain. While there are certainly several contemporary issues facing higher education in Finland, the issue that I have decided to focus on for this case study is tuition fees for international students, as it is one of the most recent issues in Finland, as well as one that draws comparisons to other countries throughout the world, including the United States. In 2016, after much debate, Finnish Parliament ruled to start imposing tuition fees for non-European Union students studying at higher education institutions in Finland. This ruling was in effect since January 1, 2016. However, the fees were not mandatory until August 1, 2017. Finnish institutions will have discretion to set their own fees in a way that supports schools' internationalization strategy. However, the government has established a minimum fee of around $1,634. Despite a seemingly low tuition rate from an American point of view, the fact that Finnish universities will now be required to charge tuition fees to international students raises some concerns with several groups in Finland. One of the immediate concerns is that by charging international students tuition fees, there will be a significant drop in interest in Finnish universities. As the mandatory fees have only just recently gone into effect, there's very little data to determine how this has affected international student enrollment in Finland. However, many opponents of this initiative look to their neighbors in Sweden, who implemented a similar reform and saw an 80% drop in international student enrollment in the 2 years following their reform. Student unions in Finland have also argued that tuition fees for international students could eventually lead to tuition fees for everyone, and they feel as though it goes against Finland's ideas of equity in education, as charging tuition fees may make studying in Finland unaffordable for some international students. In order to make reforms to this issue and spin a positive light on things, universities are trying to change the thinking around. They're claiming that the tuition fees will open up new revenue streams for universities to invest back into their institution. They also argue that the reform will make Finland more competitive in the international market and allow them to bring in the best global minds. And on a more micro level, people are being made aware that their tax dollars are not going towards education for non-citizens anymore. There are certainly lessons to be learned about Finland's choice to start charging tuition fees to international students. Certainly they can be used as an example to other countries who are still promoting free education for all. If it is a success or a failure in Finland, it could be mirrored in another country. This test scenario could also hold implications for American higher education as well, especially with an interest from former President Obama to start creating free community college education. Many supporters of this initiative will cite examples of countries like Finland who do not charge tuition fees and have exemplary reputations worldwide for quality education. However, if Finland's change is a success, it could be even more difficult for supporters of free community college in the United States to make their case. Opponents could start to say, well, Finland charges some of their students, so maybe only certain programs should be free. This could be a slippery slope, much like the one that Finnish student unions are concerned about. Additionally, a lot of the reforms around this initiative in Finland mirrors some of the political rhetoric that has become commonplace through the US in recent months. With taxes and globalization being taboo subjects for many Americans, there could be some major pushback to any initiatives to make higher education free. And with proposals by President Trump to ban individuals from certain countries, the international students that Finland might lose may not be looking at the US as their alternative option. This has been my case study on issues in higher education in Finland. If you'd like to learn more about this subject, please feel free to read more from the sources cited.